Hi there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today we are going to make this fun card box combination for Father's Day, but of course you can make it for whatever event or occasion you have coming up. I'm using some stamps from Rubber Stamp Tapestry. You can find them online at pegstamps.com, and don't forget to look in the video description for details on how you can save even more money by joining the VIP list. So we're going to get started here. I have this this dinner kit box that I was just going to throw in the recycling bin this morning, but I was looking at it and I thought, you know what, this is pretty cool. I bet I could make something with this. So I'm just flipping through this pad of pattern paper by American Crafts and picking out a couple patterns of paper that I think would look really nice with this project. I am figuring out how big I need to make my paper just by using my box as a template. I love that fold out section that that box had. I knew it was going to be kind of like, it would make a really neat card / gift box. So sometimes you get inspiration in the strangest places. So now I'm just scoring the cardstock on those lines that I made because I want to make sure it wraps around the box nice and snug, and just by scoring and pre-folding you're going to have a much neater look. And the tool that I'm using to score with is called a Score Pal. You can use any scoring board you have. If you don't have a scoring board, you can just take like a butter knife and you can run it along the edge of a ruler where you want your score lines, and that will really help you get some nice neat folds. By using a bone folder, or like I mentioned, you can use a butter knife, you're going to get really crisp, neat, sturdy folds. Here I am folding tabs in, and whenever possible, rather than cutting tabs off, I try to fold them in or fold them around something because it just gives you a more professional look. Now, the top of the box has a tab closure like a cereal box, so I covered the tabs with paper and then I cut the slot after it was glued in. I used a combination of dry adhesive from my ATG gun and also a permanent glue stick so I could make sure that paper was going to seal tight against the box because I don't want it curling and lifting up. I was able to cover that front flap, the edge, and the back of the box with one piece of 12 by 12 paper, and then I picked a coordinating chevron print to go on the inside flap, front, and the other edge of the box. So it's basically the same process as before, but I am going to show you how I put my closure in here. I wanted to make sure that the card part of the box would stay closed, so it wouldn't just flap around, and I wanted to make sure that it could sit on a shelf and be kind of nice and tidy. So I wanted to make a magnetic closure. So what I'm using here are these flat disc magnets and little metal pieces. And so what I did basically was I put one of the metal catches, just the thinner part, on my paper, and you can see I kind of tucked in the edges and folded them over nice and neat, and then that went up against the front flap, and then I just trimmed off the excess because the paper hung over a little bit and I wanted to make sure it was nice and neat. And then what I did was I closed up the paper, and then I just kind of pushed the magnet around until I felt it catch, and then that's where I taped that on the inside piece of the paper. And now I'm going to glue that securely, so now when you close that flap, the magnet will catch against the metal part and it will stay closed. So it's easy to open, but it's going to snap shut when you go to close it, and it's going to stay nice and neat. So if it's sitting on display, it's not going to be hanging around all sloppy. I decided to finish the edges of the box with some washi tape. There are so many different varieties you can pick from. I decided to use this kind of orange and white diagonal stripe by Scotch brand for this one because I do find the Scotch washi tapes, for whatever reason, just seem to adhere a little bit better, and I use some decorative washi tape from AC Moore to embellish on the insides, and you'll see that towards the end of the video. So any other little tabs you have, just glue them down. So the stamps that we're going to be using today are the bunny and the deer sets, and I'll have those linked below, and a few of the stamps I designed for Rubber Stamp Tapestry, these unmounted ones. And I thought it would be fun to kind of build a scene, like a forest scene or a kind of a country meadow scene. It being a Father's Day card and all, I always love to go to like nature-inspired images. I always think they work for either men or women and all age ranges. I just think they're very versatile. So if you're getting started in stamping, choose those images that are super versatile. Before you start stamping, it's a good idea to stamp these images off on Post-it notes and cut them out. I did that once and I just saved my little masks, that's what they're called, and I use them anytime I am building a scene. So you start front to back and you start at the bottom of your paper and you work your way up the paper because things higher on the paper are generally further away. So I did the bunny peg stamp and then the stump and now this tree, which I thought would be a perfect home for this cute owl peg stamp, which I don't believe is part of a set. I got that one as a single, but I will look it up for you and make sure it's in the video description. And then I just loved the kind of the deer in the meadow. I live out in the country and there are deer all the time. You have to be very careful when you're driving at dusk, but it's so nice to see like a family of deer grazing in the meadow, and I thought that would be a really tranquil you know, imagery to put on this card box. I gotta think of a cool name for this. I'll make sure I link to some other scene building and masking tutorials in the video description that go into this technique in a little more depth in case you are new and you don't understand the masking process. So just check out the video description for that if you need a little bit more information on masking. I'm changing gears a second to color this tree trunk in colored pencil. Since I plan on doing some pretty extensive inking in the background, I know my colored pencil will resist the ink. Why, may you ask? Well, because colored pencil is made from wax and that wax is going to resist the ink. If I do get some ink on top of it, I can wipe it off with a tissue and most of it will come off. So when you're masking, if you know you got to do some inking and you're just dreading trying to squeeze ink in and around stuff, just go ahead and color it with colored pencil first and it will pretty much stay protected as you do your inking. I'm going to use Memento dewdrops for my inking and any other stamping I'm doing from this point on, but you can use whatever ink pad you have. I'm starting off with some yellow, and what I want is the feeling of kind of twilight, just the sun's just going down. That's when we always see a lot of deer coming out to graze, and that's what I want to capture in this card. Plus it will keep the card from getting too dark. So I went from yellow to orange. Now I'm going in with some red. So it's kind of like, you know, rainbow order, so we don't get mud. We put our color friends down, or you know, colors next to each other on the color wheel. Now I'm going to do some purple next to the red to kind of get our darker sky up top, and you could follow up with a little bit of blue around the edges, and that will just give you that kind of twilight look. So as you can see, we have some hills. Right now it looks like snowy hills, and we can't have that because we've had enough snow and it's time for spring. So what I'm doing is taking the reverse part of that little mask that I cut out of a Post-it note, and actually just regular old scrap paper is fine for this. I just cut some curvy hills so that I would be able to just do some inking and just have some gently rolling hills in the background. Now I'm starting with my yellow and then some light green, and I'm also using some darker green. I think I have olive grove and bamboo leaves or bamboo shoots. I can't remember the exact name of that one, but they're all by Memento and they're all can be found at Rubber Stamp Tapestry individually if you just need an ink pad or two. And I'm just continuing on moving my mask and inking up down through the bottom of my card. If you feel like something's too samey, then just grab another color of ink and do some inking. And now I'm using that darker olive grove color to stamp on some of these ferns that came in that bunny stamp set, which I'll link up below, and some of the little flowers. Now the flowers don't show up that well. You can go over them with a gel pen to pop them up if you have like a pastel gel pen, but with a dusk scene like this, they wouldn't be very bright, so that's why I didn't do that. So I'm using the same colors I used in the tree trunk to color up this stump here. Since it was masked, I didn't need to do it beforehand, and I'm just trying to get a few different shades of brown in so I get some highlighting and shading. And I thought I'd put a little bit of color on the bunny. I'm using like an ivory color, and I decided the trunk needed some more shading, so I'm going in with a very dark brown, and then I added that onto the bunny as well. I used gray to color the rocks to help break them apart from the stump, and a little pink in the bunny's ears and on the bunny's nose. If there's any halo area, which is areas where your mask may have moved a little bit or wasn't lined up right, just use your closest colored pencil or marker and you can fill that in. Colored pencils are a little easier to control though, so that's what I would recommend if you're this far in the games, because you don't want to ruin something that you've spent so much time stamping and inking. Now this was super fun. I wanted to have a natural element in this card, so I went out back to the woodshed and I found a birch log, and then I just stripped the bark from it. You never want to pull bark from a live birch tree, so if you do want to do this technique, make sure you find a dead one that's fallen in the forest, or you just pick up birch from around the ground of a live tree. They usually do shed a bit, and you can usually harvest some birch that way, but you never want to take bark off a live tree because it can really hurt them. So basically what I did was I just kind of cut a couple pieces of the birch bark down so that I would get the longer edges of the frame. Since I was taking this off a log, it wasn't a very big log and I couldn't get any really big pieces, so I kind of had a not paper piece, would it be bark piece, my frame here, but I think it turned out pretty nice. I might have cut the shorter edges just so I would have the little appearance of a frame in the background, but not much of it shows, so I really don't know how important that was, but I do think it helps it feel kind of more like a rustic frame. And I used hot glue to adhere all this down. Hot glue works wonders for this, and it really can marry up those odd textures. And I decided that this card could use a little bit of inking on the edge to help give it a little more definition against the frame, because there's a lot of textures going on there. And I thought it would be nice to have like a little pull tab so that it was clear that you would open this up, because sometimes if you give somebody a crazy card, they don't really know that it opens up or what to do with it. So I figured having a little loop like that would make somebody want to pull the card open. And then I am using hot glue again to adhere this panel on top of everything, and that's how the front of our card box looks. I thought I'd decorate the spine a little bit too, because I could envision this sitting on a bookshelf with, I don't know, you could stash stuff in there, like, I don't know, maybe some extra cash, or I don't know, whatever you want to stash on your bookshelf and you don't want people to know what it is, I guess. So I thought it'd be kind of cool if it had a little decorative aspect in case that's what somebody ends up doing with it. Who knows, maybe it'll end up thrown away. You never can tell, but it's a nice little touch, I think. Then I embellished the inside of this card area with a journaling card that came in that paper pack that I used so I could write Happy Father's Day, and some washi tape. And I also used washi tape to go around the edges of the spine. I wish that I thought of this before I taped that down. I found these old cabochon letterbrads that are like from way back in the day, scrapbook wise, and I thought they would look really cute spelling out the word dad inside of a book plate. I am, really playing the old hits today, aren't we? We got the favorites, the moldy oldies, the book plates, and the letter cabochons, probably circa 2002 scrapbooking days. But I always loved those little metal embellishments. So I try to bring them out every once in a while because I seriously probably overbought when they came out, but I really still enjoy them. And there you can see how easy that is to open up. It snaps closed and holds closed with a magnet, and you can fill it with whatever gift you want. I hope this tutorial inspires you to look at that recycling in a whole new way. If you like the products I used today, check out our sponsor, Rubber Stamp Tapestry. You can find them at pegstamps.com. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, happy crafting!